A really strong documentary. It was so exhaustive and had such great commentary for so many people that were really on the ground in skating culture during that time. I thought it was a really great primer for people who were not familiar with it, such as myself, as well as people that are very closely tied to it already, in terms of reflecting it with a level of authenticity and a level of detail that I thought really did the subject matter justice. I thought following the jumps from the early stages of them, excuse me, using the pool service and going to the pool. I thought there was a lot of really great stories there in terms of how they convinced old women or general families to let them do that, and sort of seeing how their rebel culture has stretched for so long, as well as sort of the newer age skateboarding culture and how they're trying to still, even to now, find a level of legitimacy, even though I think obviously they are performing at a very high level that warrants what they have, which I believe is an Olympic event now. I think that's always been the case for skateboarding in general, but I thought that the piece did a really great job of reflecting how the rebel and the outcast culture within skating still is reflected writ large within sporting, but inside that culture, it's very accepting and is very open to lots of different type of people. And I thought that skate culture really has a really great dynamic where it's accessible to people that feel like they may not be accepted in other places. So I thought this piece also was a really good example of how skating works in that sense, and how it works as a counterculture movement that creates a sense of community, which I thought the piece did a really good job of establishing. So I thought it was well done. A lot of funny moments, a lot of great stories. It was really cool to see all the archival footage from the times that made that piece feel very authentic. And I thought in general it was a really great sort of showcase for skateboarding culture in California and in the world, really, to show how it's going to be put on a new type of platform now that they're in the Olympics. So I thought this piece was a really great sort of springboard for understanding that idea. So I ended up enjoying it.
You dive into so much of the culture and the history of skateboarding and where it started out with, you know, dropping into pools and doing stuff like that, and then growing and the prospect of Olympic skating and also skate culture and how it's like one of the few sports where you can come out and be a gold medalist at 50 and how it's kind of like passed off as like not a real sport, as like the outcast or like the rebel sport, but it's so much more, and how it has this great community with it. And I think it all comes together to be this really succinct piece talking not only about this group of the N men, but also just, skateboard culture in California in general, North Cali and SoCal. So I think that was really, really great to see. Um, I think you did a great job pulling all these resources to talk about something they're so passionate about. Obviously, you have Tony Hawk in there, but also other members of the community, other skaters, people who were there for when it got started. And you have great B-roll footage from so many different points in time. Um, it, it, I don't know how you sourced all of it, but it was really, really good. It was really put together. You could tell this was so researched, and this was made from a point of passion, but also knowledge. And I learned so much. And I think there's so many people who will learn so much from this piece. It was just done so, so well.
And I really like the B-roll and like the cinematography of the image. I thought it was really aesthetically pleasing. I really, there was a lot of shots that I like in there, a lot, like more than I can count, that I was like, that's a cool shot. That's a cool way to express what they're talking about. That's cool B-roll. Like with like as in like they went and got actors to be like recreate the stories that they're telling or whatever. Also like the photos, the old photos, they look really good. As somebody who does a lot of these types of like interview style, documentary style with a lot with B-roll over videos, I know how hard it is and like the challenges of like B-roll, and like especially when you're working with JPEG pictures or whatever. So I commend y'all on that. Also, uh, I wanted to shout out my favorite shot was the shot in the tunnel. I thought that was really cool. So I just wanted to shout that out.
From the start, you're getting this hit of nostalgia. You're getting that film grain, and as you're watching the footage, you're noticing the billboards promoting movies like Tarzan. You're kind of instantly brought back to the 90s. You listen to the soundtrack, and it's got this alternative grunge punk rock feel to it. The camera and editing work mimics as if you're watching a sports broadcasting with these elements of interviews. Rather than having a nice location with traditional three-point lighting, we're given two men sitting in a pool where they used to skate around in once upon a time. You're diving into not only this facet of the Inmen in the skateboarding world, but the history of skateboarding from the 70s to present day. If you have any interest in this world at all, you might have seen movies such as Lords of Dogtown. So this is interesting to kind of see the other side and dive into this world of their rivals. And how fascinating how an individual who grew up with this crew lived his life, and then 30 years later decides to kind of document where they are now. And we find that some have stuck together and are prominent figures in this world, having their hands in developing such iconic things such as the X Games and including skateboarding, part of the Olympics, kind of breaking, and, we have these men kind of breaking away to focus on their own in-men community that they've created. This journey tracks people down from old friends to people who used to capture their adventures in the pool. There's some wholesome, gripping moments in this piece, tracking the photographer by contacting every name in the phone book, it seems, finding out Doug Jones fell off the face of the earth because he was in and out of prison due to addiction, how he kind of pays the price for these consequences as he loses his best friend while he's doing time. To these guys, this piece is about family. You can really truly recognize the heart of this piece, and a passionate storyteller telling the story of his once forgotten comrades.
I really love the energy, the idea behind it. I mean, I've always been interested in skateboarding, and for the first time ever, I think I saw a production about skateboarding, that's not about Tony Hawk. And they say it in the film as well. I mean, these guys were the guys making snowboard cool before Tony Hawk, in the 70s, in the 80s. And I think it was a very well done and compelling documentary. I really loved as well how the filmmaker managed to put together all these old photos that were seemingly lost in the beginning, but that they managed to track down the photographer from like 50 years ago, and he was miraculously not only still alive, but also he kept every single photo. That's absolutely a very lucky situation, but also brilliant. I think overall the documentary was well done. There was the B-roll and the interviews, they connected together pretty well. Videos and photos, and the music was outstanding. I mean, the music really gave me the energy, gave me like I wanted to grab my old skateboard and just start skating again, like when I was 12, 13, 14. But overall, I think it was a great production, and it really kept me excited from start to finish.
The use of home videos and pictures was awesome. They had some great photographs of the N-Men in their heyday. I don't know how they got all those action shots, but they were great additions to this documentary. I think one of the best moments of this documentary was when they found Doug Jones. And throughout the film before this, all you're hearing about is how great Doug Jones was, how cool he was, the awesome tricks, like the death-defying tricks that he would do. And when he's found, he says, I didn't believe I was that missed, which I thought was really powerful, because sometimes you don't know what you mean to people. He says that when all these people are talking about him like he's a legend. So I really loved hearing his story, especially, and how he was turning his life around was really cool as well. I love the messages in this documentary about how these skaters were such stand-up guys. They had loyalty and integrity in their day, and how they're family men. Well, some of them, not all of them, but I loved that everyone's passion for the sport and the skate family itself was really cool to see. And I loved at the end that we saw the initiation of Catherine Folsom as Edmund of the Year, and to see the torch passed to some women as well was really cool. And just seeing the evolution of the N-Men and where they're going in the future, and to see them pass the torch on to new N-Men.
First thing that I think really stands out about this documentary is how it's about someone who's like just tracking down all the people who inspired him when he was younger. Like the idea of bringing all these people to get back together. You know, that connection is still that strong after all those years. That was really moving. You know, the inspirational power that the N-Men have seems quite amazing. You know, and the fact that you have people like the photographer who's still got all those photos after decades, like 3 decades or whatever, it just shows how much like the culture means to them. I do think the documentary has a lot to say about like the formation of cultures and how cultures work, and the fact that young men, skated in empty pools because the heat in Sacramento and the water evaporated and everything. It was a really cool detail, and it kind of shows like how the specifics of an environment kind of create cultures. I think it was a really insightful kind of observation. And also the fact that the culture acts as like a safety net, a place of for community for people who are sort of at risk. Again, was very touching, and it's kind of heartbreaking to see how that can break down and how it's still so fragile. People can end up getting addicted to drugs or in prison and stuff. But then at the end of the day, the bonds of that community are so strong that when they get reunited with them, they have the power to heal. That's really cool. It's really insightful, really moving, and really cool. And then you have Josh Brolin narrating it, which is like the icing on the cake. So